Marco Alvarado, welcoming you to another episode of Closing Out the Week with the Closers Podcast. How are you this week? How are you? Tell me now. Are you good? Are you bad? Are you somewhere in the middle? You should just express it. Express how you feel. And if you're doing good, great. I hope that continues for you. And if you're doing not so hot, I hope things heat up in the best way possible for you pretty soon. I think things will. I feel like the holiday season is winding down. It's funny, though. It's really, to me, I worked at a UPS store for like 5 years. I worked at actually multiple UPS stores. But I worked for that company for 5 years overall. And it's funny how all year long, whenever anybody mentions the holidays, we're just like, oh man, the holidays, it's a lot of, it's a lot. Peak season, peak season, it lasts like 3 months and everything's crazy. Maybe for the people that work at the hubs that actually deliver packages, things are crazy, especially this year because of the pandemic and COVID and everything. Definitely give those guys a break. Definitely let them complain. But people that work at UPS stores, look, I'm just going to tell you right now, things get wild for peak season for like 4 weeks, and then it's over. Literally 1 month. Like literally the week after Thanksgiving to the week before Christmas. Because at a certain point during the week before Christmas, which is this past week, there's a point in which where you can't ship anything out to get it there, to get your presents there, wherever you're sending it by Christmas time. That becomes an impossibility at a certain date. Usually, I believe it's a week before. So I think the 17th probably was the cutoff to get your package out and delivered guaranteed by Christmas Day. So that means that that turns a lot of people off to the idea of even sending anything to their relatives or loved ones for the holidays because they missed the boat. So that helps people that work at those establishments because they have less people coming in overall. And because there's less gatherings, people feel less inclined to get each other things this year. I can imagine that the bulk of what mailing centers have to deal with now is Amazon and fielding these packages that are coming in for customers to pick up, and also drop-offs, returns, a lot of those things. The worst part of that job was the returns. The returns for Amazon were really confusing. And the returns get pretty crazy in January. Honestly, January's worse than December and November when you work at a UPS store. But I digress. That is not what we're talking about today. We are talking about the holidays, but we're not talking about my previous employer. What we are going to be talking about is just some of my holiday memories from when I was a kid. And hopefully y'all can relate a little bit to some of the stories that I'm going to share. Let's see. I remember when I was, I probably must have been like 2 or 3. My family and I were still living in San Jose, California, and we were living in this condo on the east side. And I don't remember exactly receiving this gift. I don't remember it at all. I don't remember opening the package or anything, but I have the video of me doing so. And because of that video, it kind of sparks some emotion. But I'll just get into the story. I don't know why I'm prefacing it for everybody. But one Christmas when I was like around 2 or 3, I was gifted a guitar. But it was like a toy guitar. It was like one of those like Kmart brand like toy guitar things. I don't know. It was like blue and black and green, and it was just super cool. I think you could actually put strings on it. I think it was actually playable. But it was just a kid's model. Like, it was super short scale. It was literally like made out of all plastic. Like, it's not a guitar that you could actually play through, but it looked like an electric guitar. It was basically probably like a practice, like get your kids started type of guitar. And I remember getting it and thinking it was really cool because my dad played guitar, seeing him play it. It was just like, whoa, this is so awesome. But I never really responded to it. Like I would play it, I'd pretend to play along to certain songs, but I never like was like, how do I work this thing? How do I get this thing to sound good? I never got to that point. But in the video of me like looking at it and stuff, you could just tell in my face that I was so happy to receive it. I was just so excited. So it kind of baffles me that I never like really asked more questions about how to make it sound well, how to do things with it. I just kind of just like strummed it and broke strings and not really just fumbled around with it, you know, how kids do. And of course, I was like 2 or 3. I'm not saying that I needed to be taught music theory or anything, but I'm just surprised I didn't, you know, want to pursue anything. Or because you see videos of like kids get gifted like drum sets or like little like baby drum sets, right? When they're kids and they just play the shit out of them. And then that just sparks them wanting to learn more as they get older and mature. And I wasn't that way. I had a second like guitar revelation when I was like in kindergarten or 1st or 2nd grade or 3rd grade. I don't remember exactly my age, but where there was this like high school band that came and played for my elementary school. Like it was like the jazz band. And this guy was playing a red Fender Stratocaster, I think it was a Strat. And it just looked really cool to me. The way he was playing it and everything. And I forgot what song they were playing, but after that I went home and I told my parents that I wanted to play the bass. I didn't want to play guitar, and I didn't know the difference. But I knew there was a bass and there was a guitar. They look the same, they do different stuff. I don't know the difference, but whatever. I want to play the bass because everyone talks about guitar. I want to be different, so I want to play the bass. And yeah, so then I was gifted a bass randomly by my dad, which I've talked about before. And it was like a normal to like adult size bass. And there I am with like literally like like 2.5 feet length arms, like trying to play this gigantic bass. It's just hilarious to think about. And even at that point, I didn't even get inspired enough to like actually learn things. So it is pretty crazy to me how my journey's been with music and how people have tried to push me and literally gift me musical things, and it just wasn't my time. I just didn't click for me until very recently, in the past like 5 years, to where I really like buckled down and discovered I had a passion for this. It's pretty funny. Another story I have, this is very much like Christmas themed to the T, not about a gift. One year when we moved to Elk Grove, my grandma, rest her soul, my dad's mom, was with us for Christmas. And she was sleeping downstairs. We had like a pull-out bed or something, and she was sleeping downstairs. And my mom, this was Christmas Eve, my grandma decided to go to bed. So myself, my little brother Desi, my mom, and my dad went into their room, my parents' room, so they could read us stories. And they started reading us these Arthur books. And my favorite two were the Halloween Arthur book and the Christmas Arthur book. And they were reading it, and we've read this thing like hundreds of times, I can imagine. My parents would read us these books all the time. It was a constant thing. It was pretty funny looking back. And we knew that at midnight, this is how our tradition is, at midnight, we open presents. Because Santa comes at midnight. We wait for Santa, presents magically appear, right? And then all of a sudden we can open them. That's the whole thing. Okay, well, we're waiting till midnight, and I'm a little kid, so I don't think at the time I was very much used to staying up very late. And they're reading us these stories. Everything's fine. And then all of a sudden, outside of my parents' door, you just hear these footsteps, just these giant fucking thuds to this day, just gigantic thuds. It felt like a giant was walking in our house. Like it was like huge booming steps up the stairs, because my parents' room was upstairs, my grandma was downstairs, right? Up the stairs, going up the stairs, just booming loud thuds. And the way that these steps were ascending up the stairs was insane to me. And I remember hearing that and being just like stunned, because I was like, bro, Santa is in my house right now. This is insane. And my mom and dad were like, Marco, go look. See if you can see Santa. And I just was there just like petrified. I was like, I want to, but at the same time I don't, because I don't know. Santa might get pissed at me for catching him. And after like maybe like 5 seconds of hesitation, literally like 5 seconds of hesitation, I go out and the presents are just under our tree, which was on the landing of our stairs. So we kind of have like 2 sets of stairs in a way. So like you go up this like 12-step staircase, there's the landing, and then you make a left or make a right, and then there's like 3 more steps, and then my parents' room is right there. So on the landing is where the tree was this year. And under the tree was all these presents. And my grandma's bed, you could see my grandma's bed from where we were, from my parents' room, and she was in the bed sleeping. So to this day, I don't know how my parents did it. And I'm sorry if there's any children listening to this, that I'm talking very candidly, but about Santa. But yeah, I just don't understand how my grandma at that time was not a very mobile person. She just wasn't. She was still very healthy in terms of her mental capacity and all these things, but there's no way she could have walked up the stairs with all of these presents, put them down all perfectly, and walked all the way back down the stairs and back into her bed within the time frame that we heard the steps and everything. Of course, maybe my dad like left the room at some point and put the presents out. Okay, but like still, to be able to make those step sounds on the actual stairs doesn't, like, I don't know how they did it. I don't know. And to this day, I still hang on to that memory, because that is Christmas magic for sure. I don't know how to explain things like that. That's just such a wild thing. And my parents have told me, I've asked them point blank about it, and they're just like, yeah, your grandma did the noise. But it's like, how did she do it though? The bed is a good maybe 10 yards from the staircase. She has to walk up the staircase, make booming noises all the way up. And even if she doesn't put the presents out, okay, let's remove that variable. Then she has to walk back down. But I literally ran out there 5 seconds after I just like was stunned. So maybe let's do 10 seconds. So in 10 seconds, after I start hearing those noises, I run out and she's in the bed still. That's ridiculous to me. That just that makes no sense. I just don't know how the math works there, or the physics or anything like that. It's ridiculous, and I'll never know. We'll never know. I never got the chance to ask my grandma about that, because honestly, every time I was around my grandma, I just didn't think to ask her about it. And I don't think she would even have remembered. So I don't know. It's a mystery. It's kind of lost to history. A mystery lost to history. But yeah, man. Christmas magic. Let's see. What's another Christmas story that I could talk about before we wrap up? That's kind of funny. So this is a pretty recent one. This isn't when I was a kid. There's not much Christmas magic in this story, unfortunately. But when I was living in San Francisco, I, of course, came back to Elk Grove to spend Christmas with my family. My mom was down south in Southern California with her mom. And, of course, rest her soul as well, my grandma, Mami Nena. But my mom was down there because my grandma was having some health issues at the time. So she went down to be with her mom. So it was just me, my dad, and my little brother Desi here for Christmas. My dad was off, fortunately. And on Christmas Eve, I believe this was 2015, I forced my dad to watch the Star Wars Christmas special with me. And my dad, this is the most perturbed, is a great word to use. Perturbed my dad has ever been. I've ever seen him. He was just cringing the entire time. And for anybody who doesn't know what the Star Wars Christmas special was, this was a Christmas special run by, I believe, CBS in 1979, I want to say. 1978. This was a 3-hour Star Wars Christmas special that came out in 1978 that focused on Chewbacca's family. Chewbacca's little son, Chewbacca's wife, and Chewbacca's wife's dad. And they're all waiting on Christmas Eve for Chewbacca to come home for Christmas. And there's cameos from Harrison Ford as Han Solo, what's his name, Mark Hamill as Luke. There's random stormtroopers that pop up that capture the family and put them under house arrest. Jefferson Starship was made a cameo. This band from, once known as Jefferson Airplane became Jefferson Starship. And it was a clusterfuck. Okay. It was terrible. There's a reason why after that airing on CBS, they burned the copies of that because it was an atrocity. It was boring. It was 3 hours of characters nobody gave a shit about. Terrible costumes, terrible set design, terrible music, creepy set design in that. It was just terrible dialogue. Just everything was bad. Everything was bad. There was no Christmas spirit anywhere within that Christmas special. For even a Star Wars movie or Star Wars special, just remove the Christmas. Just as a Star Wars property, this was terrible. This was god awful. They shot it in in a sitcom format, like a sitcom style, like a 70s sitcom. And so the camera pan, like how the cameras were set up and everything was very, very 70s, which doesn't really bode well for like a sci-fi type of show, sci-fi centric show. With that sitcom format, it just made no sense. It made no sense. It was a terrible thing. But my dad, the whole time, was just cringing at the entire show. And I was loving it. I was laughing. I knew it was bad. My dad did too. But come to find out that this was a huge source of disappointment for my father. Because when he was a kid, this came out in 79 or 78. So he was like 17, 16, around that time. And he couldn't afford to go see Star Wars in the theater. He never got the chance to. So when it came to light that there was going to be a Christmas special Star Wars thing that was on CBS that he could watch, he was like, oh, cool, I could finally participate within this cultural moment. And he sits down to watch this thing, and it's just an atrocity. It's just terrible. It's so bad that he just turns it off and he never gives Star Wars another chance. And that, come to find out, is why he kept cringing, because it brought back those memories of disappointment. And I know that's not very Christmassy, but one, I wanted to talk about the Star Wars special. Two, we sat through that entire thing. I told him, I have to do this as a Star Wars fan. I have to sit through this terrible piece of shit for at least one time, just to say I did it, so I know how bad it is, because I can't keep just hearing how bad it is and just relying on other people's accounts. I need to have an account for myself. So he was a trooper. He sat through it with me. And by the end of it, we both agreed that one, we will never watch it again, and two, it is the worst Christmas special ever produced, probably will ever be produced. And there is a great reason why CBS burned the copies of that special. But thankfully it's on YouTube, so if you want to watch it, it is around. Some people recorded it back in the day, and now it's on digital formats, which is great. But I just must warn you, it is not that pleasant of a time. But if you are a Star Wars fan, and a very hardcore one at that, like myself, do it. Just say that you watched it at least one time. Crack open a couple cold ones with the boys, kick back, and don't expect a lot. Just it's a comedy. It's so bad that it's not good, but that's what makes it really fucking funny. So those are my 3 stories revolving around the holidays, Christmas to be exact. I hope you all have a great holiday. That will be next week. The next show is going to come out on Christmas Day, but we're going to probably jump ahead and talk about closing out the year, because I have something planned for the 1st of 2021, January 1st, which would be the last episode of this entire network. I have something planned for that, so I want to talk about the ending of the year next week. So yeah, that's the plan for the next 2 shows. Again, thank you all for your continued support. Thank you all for just listening and coming along with us on this journey with the podcast and with the network and everything. It's been really fun, and there's other things going on that I can't really talk about yet, but you should follow me on Instagram at MARC_AVACADO. That's Mark_avocado, spelled with 3 A's. Follow Quinn, my co-host on the Closures podcast and the host of Hang 10, at Quintessential39. And yeah, if you want to follow the show and just to keep updated on whenever the next episodes come out, the very few next ones, follow the show at the Closures Podcast on Instagram and at Closures Podcast on Facebook. Quinn will be with you guys on Monday to start your week off right. And then we got Sir Ryan Crossett and Father of the Year Kevin Pierce as the final guest of the show next week. And then I'm going to wrap up the year on Christmas Day for everybody. So that's the schedule. Hope you're excited for it, because we sure are. Love you all. Take care.